What's up, y'all? So here's what I need us to get into. I'm just now starting to read these reports that the shooter said that it wasn't racially motivated. He was having a bad day. And here's the thing that I want us to just even stop debating. And if we just really sink into this, then we don't ever have to argue it ever again. There is no expression of white male violence that is not racially motivated, because there is no expression of white male violence that is not a function of white supremacist patriarchy capitalism. There's no function of white male violence that is not a direct outcome of white supremacist delusion. And the sooner we get that, then we don't actually have to ask a question if it's a hate crime, right? We don't even have to use the language hate crime. It's racially motivated because white men killing people because they have bad days is racial. It's the racially motivated way, the racially entitled way in which whiteness tells white men that that's what they get to do with their bad days, is kill a bunch of people. And very specifically, what they get to do is find the lives of women and find the lives of Asian women and find the lives of sex workers as particularly disposable. And that is a function of the racialized entitlement that is the seat of white supremacist delusion. So don't let these people gaslight you about whether or not the issue is racially motivated. Of course it was. Because who we deem disposable on our bad days and who we don't deem disposable on our bad days is racially informed in a society seated on white supremacist delusion. And there's no way around that. And the ways in which we get to interrupt that is by interrupting the idea that there are any bodies that are disposable. If we treat Asian people as disposable, these are the inevitable outcomes. If we treat sex workers as disposable, these are the inevitable outcomes. If we treat women as disposable, these are the inevitable outcomes. Because disposability inside of a white supremacist, delusional, capitalist patriarchy is death. And always has been. That's not new. It's not different. And so the more that we allow people to use language that drifts us away from our shoreline, that obscures the actual issues at hand, the more likely we are to continue to be victimized by those issues and to be complicit in those issues. It's always racialized. The question can be to what degree, but it's never not, because it can't be, because you cannot, again, you can't take the ingredient out the cake. White supremacist delusion is a key ingredient in American violence. And so anytime we see American violence, white supremacist delusion is always at play. And whether or not it's the main ingredient or, it's a foundational ingredient. It's always the sugar, or it's always the flour or the eggs or the milk. I don't care what else you put in there. It's always going to be a foundational ingredient because it's a foundational ingredient in the nation. And so don't gaslight the Asian community by telling them this was about some white man's bad day. A white man's bad day becoming 8 dead Asian women is racial. Is white supremacist delusion. And don't let anybody tell you different.